I left my home after 40 years, and I regret it deeply. Here's why. Picture this: you're standing in the living room of your home for the very last time. The walls are bare, and boxes are piled by the front door. But in your mind, the room is still filled with decades of life, the laughter of your children, the holiday dinners, the quiet evenings on the sofa with your spouse. You reach out and touch the doorframe where you once penciled in your grandkids' height, and your heart swells. How do you say goodbye to a house that's been a part of your soul for so long? It's a question so many seniors find themselves asking, often with a lump in their throat and tears in their eyes. Leaving a long-time home is not just a real estate transaction, it's an emotional journey. Maybe you're downsizing to simplify life or be closer to family, and logically you know it's the right move. In fact, downsizing has become pretty common. Nearly half of retired folks who've moved in recent years chose a smaller home. But numbers don't tell the whole story. What really matters is how it feels when it's your turn to close the door on a place that holds your life's memories. If you're in your 60s or beyond, you understand that a house isn't just bricks and mortar, it's years and years of memories and comfort. So when you finally do leave, it can hit hard. And that's why we're talking about this, because behind the practical reasons to downsize, there are emotional realities that many people never talk about. If you've been feeling uneasy or heavy-hearted about downsizing, you're not alone, and it's important to understand why. One emotional reality many seniors face when downsizing is the profound sense of grief and loss that comes with saying goodbye to a beloved home. You might not have expected to feel this way. After all, you knew moving would be bittersweet, but the depth of the sadness can still surprise you. As you walk through empty rooms, it's like you can see echoes of the past, the birthday parties in the dining room, the family movie nights in the den, the marks on the wall that tell the story of children growing up. It's perfectly normal to feel like you're leaving a part of yourself behind in those halls. So many seniors describe it as if they're grieving a dear friend. And in a way, you are. This house has been your sanctuary, the backdrop to so many chapters of your life. Of course, it's emotional. It's more than just stuff in boxes, it's your story. If you find yourself tearing up or feeling a pit in your stomach when you hand over the keys, it's okay. That wave of grief just shows how deeply you cherished your home and the life you lived there. Let's be honest, though, this sadness isn't just about the four walls. It's also about what the home represents. Downsizing often means acknowledging that a major chapter of life is ending. That can come with a stark reminder that time is moving forward, that you're getting older, and life is changing. You might stand in that empty bedroom and remember tucking your kids into bed years ago, and it hits you that those days are gone. It's natural to feel a sense of nostalgia, even heartache, for a time that has passed. This is emotional reality number one. Leaving your longtime home can feel like a small loss, almost like a gentle kind of grieving. And just like any grief, it deserves compassion. So give yourself permission to mourn the house and the era of life it represents. It's not being silly or overly sentimental. It's being human. Every room, every corner has a memory. Of course you feel something. Take a moment, share a story about that old house with someone you love, or even whisper a thank you to its walls. These feelings of loss honor the beautiful years you had there. Now, right alongside that sadness can come a second emotional reality, doubt and second guessing. Once the movers have left and you find yourself in a new, smaller place, it's easy for the mind to start racing. Late at night, lying in an unfamiliar bedroom, you might stare at the ceiling and think, did I do the right thing? This is a powerful, nagging emotion that many seniors experience after downsizing. You start replaying the decision in your head. What if I'd stayed? What if I gave up too much, too soon? These thoughts can creep in even if, deep down, you know why you chose to move. It's the adjustment period, everything is new and a bit strange, and you suddenly long for the old familiarity. Maybe you miss your old kitchen where you knew every drawer, or the backyard where you used to drink coffee every morning. It's completely natural to have moments where you regret the decision, even if it's temporary. Change is hard, especially when it involves leaving something so personal behind. In your new home, you might find yourself reaching for something that's no longer there. Perhaps you go to open a closet and realize half your things have been given away, and a pang of regret hits. Should I have parted with so much? Or you want to host the whole family for the holidays and then remember you no longer have the big dining room, and that stings. This doubt can manifest as a kind of homesickness, even if you're only across town. It's a wistful longing for the comfort and completeness you felt in your old place. And let's face it, when you're surrounded by boxes in a downsized condo or a new room that doesn't quite feel like home yet, it's easy to romanticize the place you left. Memory has a funny way of highlighting the good and glossing over the inconveniences. So you might catch yourself thinking, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I was happier back there. If you're feeling this, know that it's a common emotional reality of downsizing. Many seniors quietly struggle with that second guessing, that little voice of regret, especially in the early days after a move. Here's something important to remember in these moments of doubt: you made this decision for a reason. Perhaps the big house was becoming too much, too many stairs, too much maintenance, or too far from the kids. Those reasons are still valid, even if your heart is taking time to catch up to your head. Feeling uncertain or even regretful now doesn't mean you truly made the wrong choice. It means you're human and you're adjusting. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay to miss the old life while still knowing you had good reasons to move forward. These two feelings can exist together. Over time, as you settle in, the pang of regret often softens. You might even discover new joys in your cozier home: less cleaning, more free time, maybe a friendly new neighbor or the peace of a smaller space. But right now, if you're in that in-between, let yourself feel it. Maybe call up a friend and share your worries, or reminisce a little. Sometimes just voicing that "I'm not sure I'm happy I moved" can bring relief. You'd be surprised how many people will nod and say, "Oh yes, I felt that way too at first." You're definitely not the only one. So, we've talked about the heartbreak of leaving a home full of memories and the uneasy questions that can follow after downsizing. These are just two of the emotional realities that can make so many seniors look back and almost regret their decision. It's a lot to handle, isn't it? But remember, these feelings, as heavy as they are, come from a place of love for the life you built in that home and hope for the life ahead. In our journey of understanding downsizing, we've only just begun to scratch the surface of what's going on in the heart. There are more emotional ups and downs that can arise when you leave a long-time home, and each has its own way of touching your soul. For now, take comfort in knowing that feeling emotional, even conflicted, about your move is completely normal. You've taken a huge step, and with time and a little patience with yourself, each day can get a bit easier. Just like packing up a house happens box by box, adjusting to this new chapter happens feeling by feeling. And we're going to walk through it together, one step at a time, with honesty and compassion. Keep your heart open. This story isn't over yet, and neither is your connection to what home truly means. And then there's another feeling that can creep in quietly after the move, something you might not expect at first, but it can hit hard in the quiet moments: a loss of identity. For years, even decades, your home was more than where you lived. It was part of who you were. The neighbor with the beautiful roses out front. The one with the cozy kitchen everyone loves to gather in. The host of the annual family barbecue. These weren't just roles, they were extensions of your identity, woven into the rhythm of your everyday life. But when you move, especially to a smaller place or a new neighborhood, it can feel like you've left behind not just your space, but your place in the world. Suddenly, you're not the neighbor anymore, you're just new. The routines that made you feel grounded are different now. Maybe you don't have a yard to tend or a big kitchen to cook in. Maybe your new place doesn't have room for the piano you used to play every Sunday. And it starts to feel like the version of you that lived in that house has been packed away in a box, too. This loss of identity can be unsettling. You might find yourself feeling disconnected, or even a little invisible. It's not that the new place is bad, it might be perfectly nice, but it doesn't feel like you yet. It's just walls and furniture, not memories and meaning. And in that space between what was and what is, you can start to wonder, who am I now? This is more common than people realize, especially for those who've lived in the same home for 30, 40, or even 50 years. When you've poured your heart into a space for that long, it's only natural that leaving it would shake your sense of self. But here's the thing, you haven't lost who you are. You're still you. The one who hosted, who built a home, who created a life full of meaning. That hasn't gone anywhere. The walls might be different, but your warmth, your stories, your spirit, they come with you. What helps is finding small ways to reroute yourself. Maybe it's putting up those same old family photos in your new hallway. Maybe it's starting a new morning routine with a familiar cup of tea. Maybe it's inviting someone over, even if it's just one friend or a neighbor for coffee. Little by little, the new place will begin to feel more like your own. And your identity, that deep, beautiful identity you built over a lifetime, will start to find its rhythm again. You don't need a big backyard or a formal dining room to be the person you've always been. Sometimes, just lighting a candle from your old kitchen or hanging that same wreath on the door can remind you, you're still home inside yourself. But let's not sugarcoat it. Another emotional hurdle that often comes with downsizing is a deep sense of loneliness. You might not expect it if you move to be closer to family or into a senior-friendly community. But even in a place full of people, you can feel very alone, especially if the move meant leaving behind neighbors you saw every day, the friend across the street who'd wave while watering her plants, or the checker at the local grocery store who always asked about your grandkids. In your new place, those familiar faces are gone, and it can feel like you're starting all over again, which isn't easy at any age. At 60, 70, or 80, making new friends isn't the same as it was when you were younger. People already have their routines, and sometimes it feels like everyone is moving a little too fast. You might be friendly to folks in the hallway or at the mailbox, but it's not quite the same as chatting over the fence or sharing Sunday coffee on the porch. And in those quiet afternoons or long evenings, it's easy to feel the weight of isolation. This loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's also about the emotional disconnect, missing the comfort of being known, of feeling seen and understood without needing to explain yourself. In your old home, people knew your story. They knew your dog's name, your favorite casserole, the way your spouse used to sing in the garage. You belonged. And now? Now you're still finding your footing. But here's something worth holding on to. Just because the people around you don't know your story yet, doesn't mean they never will. It takes time to build those bonds again, but they can grow, even in new soil. Maybe it starts with joining a small group, attending a nearby class, or simply saying hello to someone you pass by often. Even a few shared moments can blossom into new friendships, if you let them. Yes, it takes a bit of courage, but you've done harder things in life. And the beauty of this time in your life is that you get to choose how to fill it. Maybe this is the season where you reconnect with an old hobby, or reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in years. Maybe you write letters to your grandchildren or start a little garden on your balcony. Connection doesn't always have to come from big gestures or busy schedules. Sometimes, the simplest rituals, a walk in the morning, a smile from a neighbor, a phone call to an old friend, can slowly patch the holes that loneliness leaves behind. If you're feeling lonely right now, please know you're not the only one. Many people feel this way after downsizing, and there's no shame in it. It just means you've left a place that mattered deeply to you, and now, you're finding your way forward. The road may feel quiet right now, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Every day, you have the chance to build a little more warmth into this new space, one connection at a time. One more thing that many people don't expect when they downsize is this sudden, overwhelming feeling of being displaced. It's not the same as feeling lonely or sad, it's more like not quite knowing where you belong anymore. You may find yourself walking through your new home, and while it's clean, safe, even nicely decorated, it just doesn't feel like yours yet. You don't know where anything is. The light doesn't fall the same way in the morning. The smells are different. The floor creaks in unfamiliar places. And even though you picked this place, maybe it has everything you needed, something in your chest just doesn't settle. It's like your soul hasn't unpacked yet. And that's okay. That's normal. Because what nobody really tells you is that a home isn't home just because you live in it. It becomes home over time, through habits, through comfort, through the thousands of little things that happen in its rooms. You might catch yourself saying, "I'm going home," when you really mean the old place, even months after moving. Or find yourself turning toward a street you no longer live on, out of habit. These little slips aren't mistakes, they're echoes of a life that still lives inside you. And that's what this final emotional reality is about, giving yourself time to build a new sense of belonging. Some people think that if you're older, change should be easier because you've been through so much already. But the truth is, change is still change. And when it comes to something as personal as where you live, it can shake your sense of security in ways that are hard to explain to others. That's why it's so important to be patient with yourself. Creating a sense of home in a new place doesn't happen overnight. It takes moments. Repetition. Comfort. It might be as simple as hanging that old photograph in a new hallway, or finding your favorite chair and new corner to settle in. Maybe it's starting your day with the same cup of coffee and a familiar book. Over time, those rituals begin to stitch your spirit into the space. You wake up one morning and realize you're not reaching for light switches in the dark anymore, your hands already know the way. That's when you'll start to feel it, that sense of grounding, of ownership, of peace. That's when the house becomes home. And if you're not there yet, that's all right. There's no deadline on feeling at home. Some days will be harder than others. You might walk into a room and still feel the ache of what you left behind. But you'll also discover new corners of joy, new routines, maybe even new friendships that slowly make this place yours in a way you never thought possible. What matters is remembering that it's okay to feel all of this. Downsizing isn't just about square footage or letting go of things, it's about letting go of a version of life that once felt permanent. And that's no small thing. If you've been carrying around a little regret or sadness, please don't see it as a sign that you did something wrong. See it as proof that you lived, deeply, fully, in a place that mattered to you. And now, you have the chance to carry that love forward. You haven't lost your home, you've simply started a new chapter in a different setting. And while that can be scary, it can also be beautiful. Because now, you get to write new stories. You get to laugh in new rooms. You get to make new memories with the same heart that built the old ones. Home is not just a building, it's the life you fill it with. And you, my friend, still have so much life left to live. So if you're sitting in a new apartment, a condo, a senior living community, and it feels like a strange place for now, just take a breath. Give yourself grace. Your sense of home will catch up with your address. And until it does, hold on to your memories gently, not as anchors, but as stepping stones that brought you to this next phase of your journey. You've made it through something big, something that deserves acknowledgement. You had the courage to say goodbye to something familiar in the hope of something easier, something safer, maybe something closer to the people you love. That's no small feat, so be proud of yourself. Be kind to yourself. And know that if your heart feels heavy right now, it won't always be. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you of something simple and powerful: you are not alone. So many people your age are walking the same path, feeling the same mix of nostalgia, uncertainty, and hope. And when we speak about these things honestly, we give each other permission to heal. So if this video touched you, I'd love to hear your story. Have you downsized recently? Are you thinking about it? What's been the hardest part for you? Let's open up the conversation in the comments below, because sometimes, just knowing someone else understands makes all the difference. And if you found this helpful, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. We talk about real-life topics that matter, with honesty, with warmth, and always with you in mind. There's a lot more we'll explore together, and I'd be honored to be part of your journey. Here's to new beginnings, even when they come with bittersweet goodbyes. Here's to the memories you've made and the ones still waiting for you. And most of all, here's to you, still growing, still moving forward, still creating a life that feels like home. You're not starting over. You're simply starting fresh. And you've got what it takes.